If you cannot say something on stage, many times you're saying more than you can with the words.
Welcome to Your Creative Mind. I'm Izolda Trakhtenberg, and this podcast is all about using your innate creativity and mindfulness to build a life you love. Whether it's through writing, music, dance, theater, or any creative pursuit, we'll explore how to tap into your unique potential to transform your work, relationships, and daily life. Through inspiring conversations with world-changing artists, entrepreneurs, and innovators, or actionable insights in my solo episodes, you'll learn how to focus your energy, ignite your creativity, and bring more joy and purpose to everything you do. Hey there, and welcome to the Your Creative Mind podcast. I'm your host, Izolda Trakhtenberg. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited. My voice is almost back. I'm also very excited about that. Almost back. We are here for another Your Creative Table Read play reading series. I'm very thrilled to have Brian Cern here. His play, Fresh Hell, a play about registering your kid for summer camp, is the play we're going to be reading. And we also have Barry Wallace and Julie Brandon reading the parts. So thank you all for being here. Welcome.
Good to be here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you all are, because this is so fun for me. This is a hilarious play, and I get to do the stage direction, so I get to just listen to you all being funny. I'm very excited about that. Before we start, I want to I'm going to ask all of you to think about this question, and we're going to come back to it after we're done reading, because you've all been on the show, so people have heard sort of your thoughts and your processes about this stuff a little bit. But we were talking before we started recording about a rapid fire dialogue, when words are said over one another and when characters are interrupting each other, and being very funny, but also being again, very present with one another from a relationship that has been going on for some time. I want to ask you as actors to think about what it's like to play that. And I want to ask you, Brian, the playwright, what it's like to write that, particularly since this is based on a true story. So give that some thought as we do the read, and then we will do the read, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit afterwards. Does anybody have anything you'd like to say or any questions before we begin?
No, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. All right, here we go. As I said, I'm going to be reading the stage directions, so you'll hear me give all of the directions that are written by Brian for the actors to do, and setting up the setting and all of that. That's what the stage directions do. They show you the action of the play, even if you are not seeing it. So that's when we're reading this stuff, that's how we do it. Here we go. The play is Fresh Hell, a play about registering your kid for summer camp, written by Brian Cern, based on the events of February 7th, 2024. Characters: Mom, a mother of a 10-year-old. Dad, a father of a 10-year-old. Location: the kitchen table of an average family. Time: February 7th, 2024, 8:59 a.m. A true story about a marriage being put through the ringer as they try to register their child for summer camp. Lights up on a table with a laptop computer sitting open on it. There is a chair in front of the computer. We find Mom and Dad pacing, hovering above the computer. Mom is looking at her watch, keeping an eye on the clock. The tension is palpable, like runners at a starting line waiting for the starter's pistol to fire. A moment of this insufferable tension passes.
When?
9 a.m. sharp,
What time is it?
8:59.
That's 1 minute.
Dear God, don't start right now.
The alarm on Mom's watch sounds.
Go, go, go!
Dad straddles the chair and plops in front of the keyboard. He types with all the force of a Category 5 hurricane.
W, W, W.
We don't have time for www. Who the crap types www anyway?
Dad continues to band away.
.com.
.org. .org.
RA.org.
I swear to crap, he is waitlisted because you typed .com.
What? You're going to what?
Log in.
I don't see the...
It's right there.
I swear this is the worst designed...
Will you stop talking and just log in already?
Dad turns to look at Mom.
Please stop looking over my shoulder.
Mom starts nervously pacing. The computer screen flickers.
We're in.
Click on camps.
Wow, they have an exhibit about ancient
If
man.
you don't click on camps button right now, I will leave you and the kid and your family can make the same mess of him that they made of you.
Sure, like you can start over at your age.
Mom gives Dad a flat death stare.
I will kill you. I will kill you and leave your body on the front lawn holding, or worse, I will make you use vacation time to watch the kid.
You monster.
Dad turns back to the screen.
Okay, I'm in the catalog. Click on computer camp and, huh,
Don't you start with your huh. What huh?
it says that the class is only a half day long.
Right. And
What about the other half of the day?
it's a really good camp.
I don't care how good the camp is, it's mainly childcare.
It's a world-class education.
The kid is 10. There'll be plenty of time to learn this. I need to work. You need to work. That means the camp has also got to be childcare.
I have a spreadsheet. It's all mapped out.
But I didn't.
Trust the spreadsheet.
Okie dokie. Where were we? Catalog, camp. I can't see where I register.
Look, do you see where it says camps?
Yes,
Do you see where it says computer camp
yes.
and register? Do you see that?
No.
What?
Seriously, there's no register button.
Log out.
What?
Maybe we logged in too early. Log out and try again.
It doesn't work that way. Here, I'll just refresh the page and oops.
Oops.
Yeah, oops.
What do you mean, oops?
I mean, oops, it's gone.
What's gone?
The internet.
That's impossible.
Maybe just the website, but maybe the internet.
No,
I broke the internet.
your ass isn't that good.
The website is down.
Our summer is ruined.
Not the whole summer, just that 1 week. Oh, it's back up.
Buy shares of Microsoft and praise Jesus.
Dad starts typing again.
.org and then log in and hey, we just needed to scroll down. All the info was right there.
Well, that's a dumb place for it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you put the register button with the camp description?
Computer camp and clicky.
This is a computer class. Why wouldn't you make it logical?
Child's name.
Like a flow chart. If, then, all that crap.
Address.
It shouldn't be that hard. Go to the course, click, register, boom.
And checkout.
Dad clicks the checkout button. Nothing happens.
So click the button.
I did.
And
And nothing. Clicking checkout from the shopping cart just brings me back to the shopping cart.
oh, what the crap?
Look, I click, everything spins and loads, and boom, shopping cart.
Well, keep clicking the button.
I am.
Are you sure?
I didn't even click your button this much when we made the kid.
I know.
Dad turns to stare coldly at Mom.
You know, there's such a thing as going too far.
I'm sorry for the things I said when trying to register our child for summer camp.
It's all right. Stress gets to us all. No need to apologize.
I'm sorry for the things I thought when trying to register our child for summer camp. It was worse.
Listen, do you want me to do it or do you want to have a go at it?
No, I'm sorry. You're a wonderful button pusher.
Thank you.
Almost as good as my ex-boyfriend.
Checkout. Checkout.
I need this. We need this. I made a whole spreadsheet about summer camps this summer and free time.
Check out. Ugh.
I can't go back to the drawing board on this spreadsheet. It's color coded.
And check out. And wait.
They hold hands, staring at the screen with the same intensity as a child waiting for Santa Claus.
Loading.
Loading, loading.
Loading.
Ugh.
They deflate. Dad sits back at the computer.
And check out. Ugh.
What if this is all my fault?
Dad notices something on the screen and types a bit before clicking something.
What if I made my spreadsheet too perfectly with all its colors and pie charts?
Dad takes out his wallet and pulls out a credit card.
I'm proud of the pie charts, the exact ratio of camp to commute to random free time for every day this summer.
Dad pays for camp.
All in 3D with colors and drop shadows. Drop shadows! What was I thinking?
Done.
What?
All set. Bought and paid for.
Oh, that was easy. Downright painless.
Yep. And this is why we got married, right? To spend our mornings registering the kid for summer camp?
They kiss. They are the very picture of happy parents, all affection and smiles.
Yep. Ready to do the next one?
There's a next one?
Oh, yeah.
You're kidding me, right? How many are there?
Lights fade out during the next line.
That was just computers. According to the spreadsheet, we still need to do theater, swimming, biking, archery, canoeing, cooking, fishing, small engine repair, model UN, basketball.
End of play. That's so much fun.
Yay.
Oh, that's great. Thank you both for doing that. That was terrific. That was so much fun to listen to. I'm so interested in that question, this notion of dialogue. And so I asked you all to think about it before we read the play, that I wanted to check in with you about it now. This notion of speaking dialogue that's really over one another, that's very conversational. It's like we would be speaking to our husband or wife or spouse or partner in the real world, except for I always call it natural plus, right? We're still on stage. We're still having to say things so that people will be able to understand and recognize what we're saying and build the tension properly. So I would like to start with you, Brian, and talk to you about this is a true story. And you said this is word for word how it happened. So you took something that was a conversation and you turned it into a theatrical piece. What was that experience like? And also, is there any part of it that you made bigger or smaller in order to make it more of a theater piece rather than what you and your wife talked about on February 7th, 2024?
Right, right. And it's weird that, I remember that date exactly. It the actions happened as they did. Couldn't log into the website, poorly arranged, and then, the shopping cart took you to the shopping cart, took you to the shopping cart. But now you have to make it interesting. And so to lean into the comedy. So instead of just, my wife being organizational and, policy analyst by trade, everything's mapped out, all of a sudden it's not only is that spreadsheet, but there's charts and then there's drop shadows and all of this. And my wife's, when she read it, was like, I don't know what a drop shadow is, but that line's funny. So it's for as fragmented as society can get, I firmly believe that there is certain universal truths. And the fact that, like Julie said, I remember this when my kids were little, the fact that this particular play has had the same reaction from all parents that have come across it says, we're more alike than different. But you still got to make it funny. You still got to lean into it and make it entertaining. So hold on to that truth, but, exaggerate it. So it's my wife's not just organized, but now we've taken that joke to the end where she's got a spreadsheet and it's charts and it's map and it's blah 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 blah. We can still identify the humor and the causality and the relationship in it. And then you lean into the rhythm. You say the quiet bit out loud, so it's not, I'm sorry for what I said. Oh, that's okay. Well, the obvious line there is next. Sorry for what I thought. It's progression of thought because even seeing your reactions here, it's like, yes, we've all had that moment. I just wrote it down and put on words and sent it out by email. So it's trying to find those moments where you can poke fun. I'm sure feel a lot worse about this if I was making fun of someone else's marriage, but it's my own. So it's like, yeah, it's all free game. My wife laughed and I know it ain't right, but it's gentle exaggeration. It's like we were saying, it's easy to say, well, I'm reading a play based on my marriage and we're jerks, but anyone that's been in that position knows that after a certain point of view, teasing is a love language. And I leaned into that with that one a little bit. And there's a couple other pieces where it's my own marriage for material that have that same type of aspect to it, where they're very connected, but you kind of have to realize that it's all what we're seeing is up here, but that could only exist without the whole iceberg worth of stuff underneath it. A very Hemingway-esque method of
Mm.
writing where you're seeing 10% of the whole story.
Uh,
So,
yeah, I could see that. And it felt richly textured even in such a short piece. And you mentioned something about earlier about how the dialogue, we tend to think, oh, a page of a play is about a minute. And this is about 10 pages and it comes in about 8 minutes or so.
you're gonna have,
Yeah, because it's so, see, you know better than I do. It's your play. Um, it's so
I'm familiar.
but it's so interesting to me to sort of listen to how you made it work, and even the pauses have energy to them. Everything
Mhm.
about this piece is more electric. It's extra because no matter how frustrated they are, there is this texture of relationship below it, like you said. But also, in my mind, listening to them, like he feels, and we talked about this before we did this read, the I didn't click your button this much when we made the kid line is so funny to me because he feels free enough to say it. Because if you say it, your partner's going to hear it, even if it's sotto voce, right? So
Mhm.
he feels free. Dad feels free enough to say the line, to say that when she's in earshot, and she doesn't get upset by it. She goes, I'm going to make my own joke back with the ex-boyfriend line. So they layer that stuff right on top of one on top of the other. And I appreciate that very much. And I guess the question I have for you is, did your kid get into summer camp?
Yes. Yes, yes, he did. And he was there and he took it with his bestie and all of those camps at the end are actually, with the exception of small engine repair, Model UN, and basketball, that's basically that what he did that summer. Small engine repair I put in just because I'm like, well, that's unusual. Model UN is a tip of the hat to my wife, and basketball just the cadence was right. So when I talk to theaters about this script, they're like, well, can we put our own camps in there? It's like, yes, except you have to leave Model UN.
Tip of the hat to
I
your
don't
wife.
care. Right. I don't care what. I mean, it's one of those little bit of just I say, so we're doing, biking, archery, Model UN, and, somehow that's like the most perfect one in there, right? It has to stay and it always gets the same reaction every time someone comes across like, yes, and yeah, it's that. So I don't, I mean, I had a thought, it just went away. I apologize. End of a long day. End of a long day.
That's okay.
Um, No, but it is the type of thing where you do have that kind of bond, and it's good. And I am a fan of, if you cannot say something on stage, many times you're saying more than you can with the words.
Mm.
So I would love to be able to write a play where it's a minute of nothing, just dead silence, and still maintaining that relationship on stage through the action, through their deliberate not talking to each other. You think about, you and your spouse or partner, whatever, when you fight, you're not really screaming at each other. The fight is not the yelling. The fight is the silence. The fight is I'm beyond. And so the closer as I figure out as a writer to getting to that, because I started as an actor, the truth of the scene is the closer I try to get to figuring out how to create that moment that we can all use and identify with it, that it creates more tension sometimes not to say things.
You just did it.
And yeah.
With that little pause, you just did it. We were all going, what's he going to say next?
What is it? And so it's to do that. It's a lot of it's fun for me. I've often said as a artist, as a theater artist, it's not necessarily for me as an individual about reaching the audience, but if I can reach that one person, you know, that means many times more than anything
Mm.
else. So if I have one person come up and say, "Yep, I love that was it. I loved it. I think about this now differently." It's like I've done my job. Yeah.
That's
My favorite compliment on this script has been like, and this reaffirmed my decision not to have kids. Glad I could help, people. Glad I could help.
my work here is done. That's great. Well, thank you for that, Brian. I appreciate that very much. And yes, you did kind of affirm my stance on not having kids. So tip of the hat to you. Uh,
Your work
people.
is done.
That's right. People have asked me, am I gonna regret it when I'm 79 or 95 or whatever, and I never had kids, and I'll be like, read this play.
Sure, but by that point, there'll be others that
Yeah.
could back you up even more.
Quite
I
possibly.
haven't even hit high school yet.
Oh my goodness. Hopefully your child will not be the terror that I was in high school. So that's but anyway, Julie and Barry, I would love to get your thoughts. Julie, you first, if you don't mind. That notion of that conversation that's going one on top of the other, having to play that, having to get into the character. And you don't have a lot of time, right? We set the cast a couple of days ago and we're recording today, and you studied the character and you did what you did with it. What are your thoughts on her energy and how rapid fire she has to be while at the same time going through this roller coaster of emotions?
Well, when I first read it, and I do love this play, Brian, I think it's amazing. And I write too, so I like that kind of quick dialogue, and I like people to do that. But the challenge for me was, since Barry and I didn't have a chance to read this together before, and it's not like you're on stage where you have a chance to rehearse and get it. I could see this as a stage play. I think it would just be amazing. I hope it's been produced, and if it hasn't, I hope it will be. But finding the cadence, like when we did the first practice read and you said I sounded angrier, and I tried to ratchet it down to where it was frustration, a little anger because she was getting frustrated, and trying to pay attention to the two different kinds of characters. The dad is just gonna take care of it no matter how long it takes him. He's basically unruffled, and mom is like way out here because she's already invested so much of energy into the spreadsheet, trust the spreadsheet. So it was trying to figure out how to play her against someone I hadn't had time to, like you said, we just got it to read against, but to know that I didn't want her to sound crazy. I just wanted to channel, as a parent of grown children who went through this sort of thing, to channel that feeling of this is so important, and it's all going to fall apart. And then as soon as it's over, she'll be like, oh, that was painless. Like she hadn't just been spinning for the past 4 pages like a lunatic. And then suddenly she's like, oh, okay, and she just moves forward. So I found that I just wanted to think about how I would feel being a kind of high level energy person myself when I get frustrated. How could I do that and still not be like you were saying, Brian, this isn't a terrible fight between people who hate each other. This is just a frustrating thing that's not going exactly to plan, but it all works out. So once it's over, it's like all feelings are back to normal. All the love is there. We're good. We're trying to take care of our kid. So, it was interesting because I do a lot more writing than I do voice acting, and I've done a lot of improv, so that's a whole different kind of thing. So it was a taking my mind off the page as the writer and putting myself into Brian's words, which is something I haven't done in a while. So it was kind of interesting to do it and hope that I could bring out the fact that this was a really caring mother who was just trying to get her kid a really great summer and everybody still be able to go to work and be able to throw the stuff out about the parents, which the father didn't even pay attention. I will, you couldn't raise the kid and, I'll leave you and the kid. He didn't even pay attention because she's probably said this before and he knows she doesn't mean in any way. And it's just something that people say in a moment. And I love that it's based on your marriage because, Brian, because it's like, well, yeah, we've all had these converse with somebody. It doesn't have to be a marriage, with somebody that we're close to. We've all had these ridiculous types of conversations where something's important and one person is just trying really hard to focus, you know, and it's going to get taken care of. But it was hard to get the dad, just because the dad character's so calm and low key, and to figure out how to play against it and still be a little more hyper, but without running him over, like knowing that she could yell at him and he was going to look at her and go, I love his comment, the dad comment about, well, like you could start over at this point or whatever it was. I was like, yeah, that sounds, and she didn't even pay attention to that because he didn't mean that either. So I hope that answered your question. I'm not
It
sure.
absolutely it did, but it is interesting to me in sort of rereading the script and she is frustrated and I can see it. She's like, I want this, I need this. And you can tell she desperately wants to make sure she has some free time this summer in addition to all of the other responsibilities. So I think you played that very well, and I was really happy that you were the person who did it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Barry, talk to me about the more calm energy in the room and how you did that.
Well, this part resonated with me a great deal because I do this every day at work. That's part of my job is designing and maintaining websites. So I'm definitely used to trying to get the best out of my site that I create. I work for a hospital, and then looking at other sites and getting frustrated with the user experience and this button should be here. Why isn't it here? This makes no sense. So I can definitely relate to the dad getting frustrated because what he's trying to do is not working the way it should be done.
Mhm.
And I'm also used to, as a fairly tall individual, I'm used to be the one that gets the stuff off the high shelves. So when things need to be done that I have a particular talent for, then I get the job,
Mhm.
whether the other person has a urgent need or whether it's an actual urgent need, or maybe it's not quite as urgent as they maybe think it is. It's my job to make sure that that gets done. So I can definitely identify with that. It's fun talking about the partnership of couples, whatever flavor that takes. Is actually there's a similarity to acting partners to a
Mhm.
degree, where the acting partners and Julie and I, like she said, we only had one chance to read through the play before we performed it. So if we had multiple opportunities, if we were on stage, we would find all kinds of ways to find other little things to relate to each other and have have a more polished cadence and back and forth. But so that's what acting partners do is they find those those parts that their partner needs to do and how they react to them, and it goes back and forth. And a couple, a husband and wife in this case, over however many years of marriage, they find that out in themselves too. So they work together and they work as a team. And one has strengths, one has weaknesses. They complement each other if everything's working correctly. And in the case of this play, and Brian, I assume in your life, you were able to find a way to you work with your partner and everything worked out the way it was supposed to, and everybody did their job, and it all came out well in the end. and you had a successful conclusion. And then, of course, things continued. And I will have to say that Model UN is probably the camp that the kid is least likely to brag to his friends about at the end of the summer. So that's, of course, the one you want to have in there for sure. But yeah,
Well, if you couldn't tell when he walked behind me
yeah, I
and
thought he was
waved at
wife of
John,
that kid at summer camp.
yeah, he turned out fine. He's over it. He doesn't know. He's okay.
I think small engine repair is my personal favorite.
Like now you have somebody who's going to be able to repair your lawnmower. Aha.
Uh-huh.
I love it.
I love that. Well, you know, and it's fascinating to me as we put as writers and as actors, and you are all writers as well as actors, as we put life on display on stage in whatever way, we are always looking at it from a perspective, I think, of whatever real life is, we're going to ratchet it up in some way to make it theatrical, to make it dramatic. So I would love to ask you all what your thought is on not just this play, but another play that you've seen that has been real life, but plus that you thought worked really well. And now I should sing the Jeopardy theme song while everybody thinks about.
Well, okay. I mean, a couple come to mind. And I think my first real acting gig was in college. I did, as an actor, A Kind of Alaska by Harold Pinter.
Mm.
And it was, Pinter in general has been very influential on me. You know, my excessive use of pause, for example. But talk about life plus. You look at something like The Birthday Party, where it's so specific and general at the same time. You know, it's a very specific set of circumstances that seem to just take life and magnify it up. 12 Angry Men's another one that comes to mind, where, you know, Inherit the Wind is another phenomenal example where you can say, yes, these are very slice of life, straight, you know, ripped from the headline type of deal, but just somehow magnified. And, you know, if I'm even thinking Marat Sade, where that same type of deal, where you have a literal trial, but now it's pushed into the absurd, where, you know, plus, 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 but still hammered out very much in reality. And I try to do that with everything that I write, even especially in many regards, the more out there pieces. I'm finishing up a fairy tale type story right now, where it's very much, you know, elves that were visiting the fairy queendom, and the queen has, you know, a death wish. I was writing about fairy cannibalism, and not death wish, but she's murderous. You know, I was literally writing about fairy cannibalism at one point in this script.
Oh my.
But it still has to be more grounded in reality.
Mm.
And, you know, Stephen King's great lesson is, the more reality based you make it, the more you know, the more terrifying it is.
Sure.
You know, if you know, think about like Pet Cemetery is a great example. He ate, you know, frosted O's for breakfast. We all know that, which just amplifies the madness that surrounds it. And so I love that. Keep it real, and then everything else will just, it becomes, instead of a story about someone else, it becomes, oh, my story. Now, what if I was to do this? Because so you can play into a person's expectations and all that.
Ah, yes. I love that. And it is interesting to me that you mentioned Pinter, because that one of Pinter's plays is the one I was thinking of when I was asking this question, but I will leave that for last. And Julie, what are your thoughts?
Boy, you know, for a playwright, I'm a terrible theater goer. It's just a fact. I am. I don't get it to as much as I like, because I like period pieces and I like musicals. But even with musicals, let's say, um, recently we were talking about they did a production of Fiddler on the Roof and a friend was in it, so we went to see it. And of course I've seen it a million times and we all know the story, and but it really struck me in some of the things going on with, say, more of current life. Not like this is a history of people, this is what happened, but gee, this stuff's happening to a lot of different people now.
Mhm.
And getting past, and there was I had some seriously tearful moments over a play I've seen, I've been in, I've have, watched the movie 100 times, but I was connecting to it differently because I took it out of the, oh, this is a musical to this is people's life, any people, not just those, any people that are being moved from place to place. And there are people that are being moved from place to place all the time. So it was just the feeling of that we can have humor, which is the way I like to write, even if something serious is going on. I like to see the humor in it also. I recently saw a really good production of Charlie's Aunt. And I mean, I had never seen it. I had read it years ago. And of course it's a farce, but this is also, it was an indication of what was going on as far as the social mores for that time. It was wonderful, but it also made you stop to think about all the rules. I tend to go back, like I said, a little more historical. I like to go back into period pieces. But so I can't think of anything honestly really current I've seen in a very long time, which is a terrible thing. I live near Chicago. You think I'd go to theater more, but there's a community theater in every town surrounding me. I can go to theater all the time, which is great because a lot of them are really wonderful. So I'm trying to catch more. I hate to say current because some of it's probably still 20 years old, but more up to date things. And I think I'd like to see the slice of life, but even like this with Fresh Hell, you want to see it, but it's like you want to be able to take a piece out of a person's life and then place it right back into it again. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? Like
Absolutely.
I write a lot of short plays. So here's this section, and then we don't know what went before and we don't know what went after, but we get to have this moment, whether this moment lasts 10 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or whatever the length of it. That is just a period because as we know, most plays are really what, a day in someone's life or a couple days of things happen or a weekend, or it's not like their entire life is shown in a play. It's just that moment. So whatever that moment is, if they're singing or if they're not singing or if they're doing Pinter or whatever they're doing, you want it. I want to feel like I was in that moment and I am no longer thinking about me being Julie. I am focused in, and I could feel that I could see that it's going to make a difference to me. Some plays you walk away and you go, okay, that was nice. But some leave something with you that you might have seen 30 years ago, but they leave their mark on you, so to speak. And it affects more than we think. As writers, since we're all writers, it affects us as writers, it affects us as theater goers, it affects us as actors, and just people. There are just people who go to the theater because they like it and they're never going to write or they're never going to act, but it's giving them something because there's also that level of escapism. I can get out of my little life where maybe nothing's happening and I can go live in this life, or, oh, that's really terrible. Maybe my life isn't so bad. So, my 2 cents.
And they are very good 2 cents. Yeah, I love that notion of the different reasons people get involved in theater or go see theater. And it's very true that all of those are true and then some, I'm sure. I just saw Redwood with Idina Menzel a couple of days ago, and boy, that one stays with you. It's fantastic and lovely. My husband just reached in through just we're both sick and he's taking the cough medicine from my office. So there was this hand that came in and took the cough medicine. But yeah, there are a lot of there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and I appreciate what you said and how you said it, Julie. Thank you. Barry, what about you? What are your thoughts on plays that are natural plus like that?
There's a play that I just finished directing actually, so it's very much on my mind, which is Dancing at Lunasa by Brian Friel. And that play, for those who aren't familiar with it, takes place in 1930s Ireland and is narrated by an adult who was a child at this time period, and he's telling about his mother and his mother's sisters who raised him in this era. and he's remembering all these events of a couple of days in his life that were particularly memorable. And his the entire play is acted out by these characters, and this adult narrator wanders in and out of the scenes and comments on the action and brings the audience up to speed on various things, and then he leaves and the action continues. So it's a very interesting perspective on a narration, and the audience is watching this, and while they're seeing these events play out on stage in real time in realism, um, the narrator is also on stage as a small boy, but you can't see the boy. The boy is not there physically, and the narrator speaks the boy's lines. So you don't know exactly how accurate, how reliable this narrator is, because he's speaking from his memory. And so it goes back and forth and back and forth. And I've always that's going to stay with me for a long time when I think about how to write a play and how to write uh, um, a point of view, from if you have two characters or multiple characters speaking. It might be as if you pulled the metaphorical fourth wall off the house and watched uh, George and Martha discussing whatever in Virginia Woolf, or anything like that. Or there might be a different type of point of view where you're seeing this through the memory of a small boy who's grown up to an adult. And I think that's fascinating. And I think it's very it gives you a lot of different tools to work with as a writer, to tell your story. And you have a story and you want to tell, and you've got all these ideas in your head. And so what form do I want to tell the story? Do I want a straight narrative? Do I want it as a memory or as a flashback? Or is it metaphorical? So there's lots of instances like that. Brian mentioned Inherit the Wind. Um, Unfortunately, we had a production of Inherit the Wind that just ended this past Sunday in my hometown. It's one of my favorite plays, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see it, but I know it very well. And that is definitely a very striking play as far as the point of view and the realism of what you're watching. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my idea, is that there's so many different points of view to tell a dramatic story, that it gives the playwright a lot of room and a lot of latitude to find the best way to start the story.
That's phenomenal. I love that. Yeah, and they're as writers, as storytellers, a lot of times people struggle with that point of view. They struggle with whose story actually is this? I want to tell it, but whose story is it? Who is the character through whose eyes we're going to see this world? And my thought on this when I asked this question was Pinter, 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 because he does that so brilliantly. Because he gives you what I love, and the play I was thinking of was The Homecoming. What I love about that play so much, and I've actually never seen it live. They don't really perform it so much anymore, but the one that's the video, and Vivian Merchant, who is Pinter's former wife, plays Ruth. And the storyline is Teddy, who is now works as, I think, a professor in the USA, brings his wife Ruth back to North London to his home to meet his brothers and his grandfather, uncle. I can't even remember. The last time I saw it was, I want to say 30, 40 years ago, something like that. It was a long time ago. Anyway, but the point for me is that we keep thinking of Ruth as someone who is meek and sort of mild. And Pinter lulls us into this false sense of security that she is a woman who is cowed by the norms of her time. And then in the second act, when there's this one line when she's talking about getting a glass of water for the patriarch of the family, and she says, "Let me get you a glass of water," and she takes it and she holds it to him. She goes, "Let me pour it down your throat." And you see that who you thought was this meek and mild woman is actually this powerhouse who has now become the queen. And so Pinter took this character who we thought was pretty, kind of I go along to get along. And all of a sudden we realized, no, she is not that person. And he took the reality of what women were going through in the 60s when he wrote the play, and he made it something so elevated with that one line and her delivery of that one line. So we see so much more, so many more layers, to get back to your point originally about Fresh Hell, Brian. We see so many more layers, not just in her relationship to her husband, but to his entire family. And we watch her take control. All of a sudden, she's the queen, and now we know it. And there's a lot of power in that, both as the actor saying those lines, but also in the playwright going, this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to show this woman coming into her own in a world where no one wants her to. And it was, I saw that, I think I was 19 taking my first theater class, and we watched it, and I was, what did he just do? That was my that was my reaction, because it was brilliantly acted, but also that line. And I want to see an original script to say what what did he ask of the actor at that point. Then that's another thing. That's maybe for the next time we do a play read, is what is your intention in those moments when you're writing that dialogue as a writer? Maybe for the next time when we're all gathered together, we'll do a conversation about that. In the meantime, I know it's late, everyone's tired, so I want to say thank you so much for being here and for reading this play. Brian, thank you for writing it. I am very appreciative of all of you for taking the time and doing this and being part of this project. So my gratitude to you all.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
It was wonderful to do it. I really
Wonderful.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for taking the time and being here. If you've listened to this, I'm going to put in the show notes the bios and the pictures and how you can get in touch with Brian Cern, Barry Wallace, and Julie Brandon if you want to know more about Brian's work. And also, Barry and Julie are also playwrights, so you can learn more about their playwriting, and you can go to their websites or to New Play Exchange. I'll have those links in the show notes for you, and learn more about the work they're all doing. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed today's Your Creative Play Read. Very, very excited to do this project, and we'll see how long we can keep it going. We'll have another play next week. Super, super thrilling for me to bring theater and creative expression vocally, since you know I'm all about vocal creative expression, out to you as you're listening to this. In the meantime, thank you again, Brian Cern and Julie Brandon and Barry Wallace. I am Izolda Trakhtenberg for the Your Creative Mind podcast, reminding you as always to be bold, be creative, and most of all, be kind. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. Please subscribe to the podcast if you're new, and it would mean the world to me if you told a friend about it. Today's episode was produced by Izolda Trakhtenberg and is copyright 2025. As always, please remember this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future results, although we can always hope.